Alright, and welcome back everybody. So, a new video, because we got a new video. A making of series, starting with the first video called The Essence of Gothic, and obviously we're going to dive in there and see what it's all about. I haven't watched it yet, but, well, we're going to see. And without any further ado, let's just get into it. I'm looking forward to it actually. So, let's go.
The original Gothic was so popular and so unique at the time that I feel like it deserves a proper remake.
Okay. Right from the start I've got something to say and I forgot to stop. This right here, I'm pretty sure that this is the abandoned mine that you find at the very beginning of the game. In the playable teaser, we were able to go into a little mine shaft, but it was just a roundish room with some additional edits on the side. And in the interview that I did with Kai Rosenkrantz and Rainer Pollice, they told me that the abandoned mine will be bigger. And this, my friends, this is going to be it. I'm very, very sure, because the layout fits perfectly. So as you can see, it's a mine, and down there you've got the water. Obviously the abandoned mine, in the game files, it was meant to be flooded, and the layout just fits. If you've ever seen material from, I don't even know, the Nostalgic Edition, maybe, and also Returning, they are using the abandoned mine in their modification. And this looks very much like it. Very much like it. And I also... Oh man. Great atmosphere. Again, the play with the colors. You've got the blue hue of the glow of the ore seams and the torches and all that. I do really like it. Looking great. Looking great. Also like the fog that kind of obscures the details. It's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. So, again, they already confirmed that the abandoned mine will be in the game and also be bigger, and this is probably a look at it. Very excited.
Original Gothic was so popular and so unique at the time that I feel...
Whoa. Okay, this is a new angle. The mountain fortress, the stone fortress, however you want to call it. So, in one of the videos that I posted, I think it was the one with slivers, we had a different angle, and it also was kind of night time. We were talking about this a little bit, and this is something very, very interesting. So, it seems like, again, the area has been expanded. You have this... I don't even know what that is, the bottom right side. It seems like there is some kind of armament in the distance. Could be a bridge even, I don't know. But it's looking really, really good. I imagine that... Wait. Could it be that this bottom right place is leading to the bridge? I don't know. I would imagine that the bridge might be on the left-hand side behind the rock, but I'm not sure about that. But all in all, it looks good. I criticized one thing, that was that there, in the original game, there is... The stone fortress is kind of surrounded by the rocks. It has kind of a rock ceiling, you know, the mountain is kind of above the fortress, and that is... As you can see, obviously missing here. It's a little detail, I think. It made the mountain fortress pretty much unique. And now it's a fortress out in the open. It's a kind of different take on it, but the essential stuff is still there. You've got the big tower. They also added some stuff, as you can see, at the wall in the back. There seems to be some kind of... I want to say it kind of looks like an arena or something, but again, I don't know. But all in all, it surely looks dope. Surely does. Let's move on.
I feel like it deserves a proper remake.
Our approach was first and foremost to respect and embrace the original vision behind the game. We studied the original vision. We tried to understand everything what they were trying to say, what they were trying to convey. And we just thought about, okay, this is a remake. That's the first thing the fans should have to do. We are not trying to reinvent the wheel or to do something crazy with the Gothic franchise. I mean, this is a remake. We embrace, we honor the original vision, and we just try to approach there with the uttermost respect.
After so many years, and actually after quite a short time after the release of Gothic 1, when I look back at the music that I've done back then, I kind of always find the things that I would have loved to improve. If I had more time, I would have thrown things away and replaced them with other ideas. So that constant, striving and drive to make everything better, now I get a second chance. So I can return to my music that I wrote back then and create new versions, create fresh versions that kind of stand the test of time.
It's been more than 20.
I gotta stop here. So, he's right. If you've ever done something creatively and some time passes and there is some distance between you and your project that you had, it could be anything, writing songs, writing lyrics, or just drawing or painting, whatever it is. You look back at it, and sometimes you've got people, perfectionists, if you will. They look back and they're like, oh, it's fine, But there are also some people, including me, looking back, we're always like, oh, I didn't really like this, could have been better here, and all these kind of things. And I think even if he has the doubts, most of the fan base would assure him that the work he has done in all the 3 games was astonishing. It's actually so incredible what kind of influence the music had on the game overall, on the atmosphere. And it's a very unique music that he is composing. I really admire his style. His songs are not very repetitive, like mine, for example. He is telling a story with his songs. It's always like ongoing. I want to compare it to classical music in a sense, because if you listen to the big classics, there is kind of a lead motive that is repeating sometimes in different variations, and he does that as well. But for the most part, it's really a story being told in a music sense. It's like here is the intro, then there is an interlude to a new part, and this new part then picks up the lead motive and it changes it after some time, and then a new part approaches, and so on and so on. And I think that's really impressive. I mean, you have to think about Kai Rosenkranz. How old was he when he joined them? I think he was 17. He was 17 when he started working on this, because I remember from an interview, I think, that he had to get a permission by his parents because he was underage. And this is so impressive. I mean, what were you doing, when you were 17? I was getting high and doing nothing. That's not entirely true, but compared to him, I was slacking. And that even he has these ambitions nowadays to make everything better. Props to you, man. You're the man. Yeah, what did we have here? We just saw a little clip about the Brotherhood, and this might be, because we can see some Templars standing guard, this might be the way into the inner sanctum, the temple in the swamp, basically. And they changed it a little bit. I don't know what kind of perspective we're looking at, probably from the outside into the inside. So they changed, or they removed the kind of big pillar in the middle, because if you remember, if you went into the temple, there was a right way and a left way that led you into the main chamber, and this might be a new design, and I don't really mind it that much. I think the temple had its atmosphere, but I might even like that better. But it's hard to judge because you're not playing it, you're not inside the game. But at least it's a freaking cool shot. It is. Let's move on.
20 years since the first Gothic came out, and it's difficult to think about how you bring something that has such a history into modern times with the quality of life we have now, and how you stay truthful to the original experience of playing such a game, which was quite innovative, quite new to the whole market and what it brought to RPGs.
I got immersed into the world of Gothic thanks to Kai Rosenkrantz and his creations. And
Timur! Man, I finally got a face. You're doing a great job, man. Really. Let's have a listen.
I want to say a big thank you to Snowball localization team, because they made a huge job. The voices and localization, it helped me a lot to go deeper in this world.
I think that Gothic 1 was a game that allows the player to go everywhere, anywhere, and anytime.
I gotta stop there real quick. Timo is completely right. The localization, the voice acting, it has been lacking in some parts. If we're taking a look at the English version, I think I'm repeating myself here, but I might have said it before. The German version, obviously, to me, is very close to my heart. These are voices that I'm very, very fond of, and I grew up with them. Many of them have died already because they were older voice actors. But yet again, you've got localizations, for example, the Polish dub, which was, as far as I know, really, really good. When we had our playthrough of Gothic 1, my playthrough of Gothic 1, I kind of got into the voices as well. Some of them were pretty... How can you say? Not lackluster, but they were very, very overacted in some cases. Then there is the famous Bromore line from Gothic 2. We should do a Gothic 2 playthrough, I think. Which is like out there. It's like if you're thinking of bad voice acting in video games, Bromore probably comes to mind. But it's so bad that it's also kind of iconic at this point. But yeah, you get the gist of it. You know, there is a big influence on the player when it comes to these things. And I think when we're talking about the soundtrack, you know, when we're talking about the voice acting, when we're talking about these things, and even more, it's like almost unending, you know, all these things make up the atmosphere in the game. And when people talk about Gothic, they talk about the atmosphere, you know, it's the rough tone and all that kind of stuff. I think it's more than that, but it definitely plays a role. It definitely does. The voice acting, the sounds, the music, the way you play, and all this. And yeah, apparently they did a great job casting the voice actors in some countries. The Russian version, again, should also be noted here that it's a good one. Again, I haven't played it. I'm not very familiar with Russian. But I can say that much, even though I don't understand Polish. I played Archolos with German subtitles, or English, I don't know. And just hearing the guys speak, the voice acting of those people in the Polish dub, I thought they did a very, very good job. A very good job. And I think even if you don't know a language, you can kind of decide if it's good or bad. And you always compare it in your mind to the original dub, you know, of your language. And well, let's move on.
So that feeling that the player has in order to make his own choices.
There was
Whoa, okay. I'm taking a leap of faith here, but I think this is Baal Parves leading you to the swamp camp, because that doesn't really look like anything you know from the original. But I think I said in a video or in the podcast with Kolga and Jorgensen, it's a German podcast. We were talking about this, that they changed the way leading to the Brotherhood. So if you remember, the way to the Brotherhood, the original way, it's just like a slope going down, right? And now they changed it to be like a serpentine way leading down a rocky hillside or a mountainside, and this is what we're seeing right here. Obviously, you can deduct that there is a novice leading the way, there is the hero with some starter gear. Still, well, this is how you usually move to the sec camp at first. You know, you need some help. Baal Parves has his bloodfly sting mace, I think, which is pretty damn good at the start of the game, and he's rocking through the lizards and the bloodflies and leading you straight to the camp. And this actually, like, take a look at the foliage, man. The light and the shadows. It's so good. It's so good.
I don't know, 15 years, over 10 years, there was nothing happening with it, which is sad, because it's like, it's a franchise and a game that people deeply care about and are very emotional towards too. And I'm myself sad, actually, that I never got to play another Gothic game in these times.
We are fighting with memories. We're just trying to embrace the original vision of the authors.
When I was young, I played the games in German. It was one of the only games which had a real character and authenticity to German like culture. Like, the dialogues were written in a way how you and me would speak if we would be, I don't know, friendly, drinking a beer and talking about stuff, right? And that is something that was never done by a game. It was so natural and so close to reality in a way. Like, without being a simulation or whatever, it kind of like fascinated me always, right? Because it also, like, they were cursing each other in the game and like reacting to each other in a very rude way sometimes, and that was kind of like an attractor for me.
I had to write something down so I remember. So here's a little story of how I got into video games. Not the whole story, it's just an abbreviated version. So I played the N64. It was the first console that my parents gifted me to, I think it was Christmas, for me and my sister. And I had one shitty game which was completely whack. I think it was some kind of a racing car game. I went to the flea market and I got Zelda Ocarina of Time. And my mind was just like, you know, you had this kind of open world and you could go kind of everywhere. Kind of. Obviously we're talking about an old game with heavy limitations, but this was fantasy to me, right? Then I got a computer at home and I was made aware of this game called Gothic, and I was blown away, because I thought, this is what fantasy can be, you know, because it was kind of the first dark fantasy game that I played. I played Diablo 1 before that, but Gothic being my first 3D experience on the computer really got me in a place where I was full of astonishment, you know. It was a wonderful world, and what he says is so true. So I think, I don't want to be gatekeeping or sounding pretentious or anything, but there is something about how the dialogue is written and how people talk that is just very much hitting home for me. You see, the people who worked on this game, they were working in the west of Germany, in the so-called Ruhrpott, so a very industrial area, and obviously we also had a lot of heavy industries, you know, also a lot of mines, coal mines, and that was you know, the realization, I had this realization like many years ago, you know, but the connection to the real world and this game, how they got inspired, not just in visuals, but also when it comes to the dialogue. And here's the gatekeeping part. I think I live in the west of Germany, and when I grew up, well, like middle-class people, when I went to work with my father, and he had these types running around there, you know, like workers in their mid-40s, and they were speaking like that. And I think it is, I think it's a German thing overall to be very blunt and direct, but even more so in the western part of Germany. And again, you know, I don't want to gatekeep, but it feels like that. When I visited different parts of Germany, it wasn't quite like that. But when you go to places, you know, like deep in the west, where these guys actually came from, you had this worker culture, and that really transcended into the game. It was translated very, very well, and it was a type of speech, a type of dialogue that I, well, actually never really experienced in any other game. And the problem that I have with Gothic 3, for example, and to an extent with Gothic 2, things toned down in Gothic 2, which is understandable because of the change of the scene. You know, you go from a prison colony where everybody is miserable, understandably so, into a kind of still functioning society on the island of Corinnes just next door, and people are still, you know, kind of working, and the social structures haven't really fallen. It's all in peril, sure, but it still kind of moves. But then Gothic 3 comes out, and sure, you can say, okay, the situation has changed once more. But when I listen to the dialogue of Gothic 3, it always is this thought in the back of my head that they wrote the dialogues in a way because they extrapolated the wrong things from what the fans said, basically, you know. When I imagine when they were making Gothic 3, it was like, oh, what do the fans like, you know? And they took some notes, but the priority list was all messed up, you know. Oh, they like exploration, so we just create this uber massive world so they can explore all the time. I mean, exploring was fun. It wasn't the main thing, you know. There was a good story involved, there was a good environmental storytelling, there was a good atmosphere, and all these kind of things that, in my opinion, are more important. But the dialogue suffered in a way that I think sometimes they wrote the dialogue in a way that it was so rough without any reason to be, you know. They're just putting swear words in there, or characters are talking nonsense, or characters are overacting, and it didn't really fit, you know. And still today, people are like, oh, I do like the rough tone. Yeah, but the rough tone in Gothic 1 comes from the environment, and it's conveyed very naturally, you know. And we will see if they capture this in the remake. I really do hope so. I mean, Kai is there, he can give some insights, but I think what are the characteristics, without beating too much around the bush? I think the dialogue, the way that people talk, especially in the West, in my opinion, rarely we use picturesque speech. We're not talking much with metaphors. We do sometimes, but it's more blunt force, you know, it's direct. We say what we want. We're not talking around the bush all the fucking time. Even you get the completely wrong impression of it right now because I'm having so much to say, you know. But again, what he says is completely true. You were playing this game as a kid, and these people in the game, in a fantasy game, and that was back in the day when I didn't know that Piranha Bytes was German actually, they are talking like the dudes at my father's work, and to an extent, you know, the people in my family and, you know, the area that I was living in. I'm not living in the heart of it all, but adjacent to it. So yeah, that impressed me as well. Very, very, very good. And we'll see about that. We'll see about that. Did they capture the German spirit? Let's move on.
Tiene algo especial. Este juego desde el principio, desde que empiezas a jugarlo, te engancha, te envuelve como en ese aura oscuro y como duro, ¿no? Que se consigue muy rápido, ¿no? Esa sensación de sentirte parte, ¿no? de ese mundo ya. La música, los environments.
Así que Gothic me gustó mucho por el setting y por el mundo. Y me llamó mucho la atención, pues que era un juego que yo no estaba acostumbrado a jugar en ese momento. Un juego que no te guía, no te indica dónde tienes que ir ni lo que tienes que hacer. Tienes que prestar atención a lo que te dicen los personajes, tienes que comprarte el mapa, tienes que estar muy atento, y eso realmente es una experiencia muy inmersiva, y yo creo que eso es lo que más me gustó del juego.
Gothic is a very grounded.
A very beautiful woman just spoke the truth. I think it's so much different than modern games, you know. I was talking about it a long time ago when I did the first video actually. You know, everything is littered. Your screen is littered with things, and you're so used to it. You know, when you're starting up a game, you're like, okay, where's my mini map? Where are the markers and all that? You gotta start anew when it comes to some of these AAA industry standards. You know, I don't want to say it's made for dummies nowadays, but it certainly has become a luxury that we can also very much not have and have a great time despite of the lack of the luxury. And it also keeps you thinking. Having to buy a map and having to rely on visual cues where you are, having to rely on what they said in the dialogue, where to go, you know, where can I find the camp? And they tell you, look, there's a river, there's a bridge leading over the river. Take the path to the left through the forest, and then, you know, for example, and if you keep that in mind, you actually find it. It's just like in real life, you know, when you're somewhere with your car and you ask somebody if you don't have GPS, or if you're born before 1980, you probably had such a situation, and you ask yourself around, this is how it works, you know, and this is just so cool. It keeps you thinking, it keeps you engaged, and it's also, I think, amplifying the sense of exploration, because once walking this way, things can catch your attention and you're going astray a little bit, you know, and that is when the real adventure begins, you know, your own little side quest of exploring. And to people who never played this game, they might be confused at first because there's so many new things, you know, especially when you play the original and you had a more or less clunky system of moving and interacting with things. But if you get past that, if you internalize these things, and you can take a good look at the core of the game, what it has to offer. You know, once you're getting comfortable with the mechanics and all this, I think it has so much to give. And there are really, really so many lessons to be learned still that, in my opinion, AAA companies and a lot of AA companies, everybody basically, can learn from this little gem. Yeah. And here's Javier Untoria, who was, I think he was talking in one of the in one of the podcasts about the composition of light and shadows, about great masters of the olden days, and he gave some examples of that. I think it's him.
Game that you feel like is tough, is hard, but also is very realistic.
What this was amazing to me the first time that I played Gothic was how you could solve a lot of situations taking advantage of everyone. Everyone would take advantage of you, of course, but then you have these chances where you can take advantage of a character killing a scavenger for you, so you can go around something.
Creo que lo que más me gusta del Gothic, que combina la magia y todo, es que, aunque es un juego de fantasía, es muy verosímil. No es 100% realista, pero sí que intentamos que
Sí, es la verdad.
parezca realista. Entonces es como que combina esos dos mundos y no te da la sensación que estás como en un juego que no pudiera existir en la vida real, sino que es algo que te hace como meterte dentro del personaje y sentir que tú puedes estar viviendo eso.
The living world, like the simulation, that like everything is kind of like, everything has a daily routine, you can affect it, you can get to discover, kind of like be part of the life. It was the first simulation that I feel like was not centered around the player. It was actually...
Let me get back a second. Him looking around, looking for the rise, that's pretty awesome.
You can affect it, you can get to discover.
And there he is. It's Karim, who's only in the old camp to kiss Gomez's ass. Spittin' facts, yo. And there's Gorhanus, Kurgo, and bottom right top person might be Scatty. That looks so good. Brilliant. By the way, Spanish women are very pretty, and the guys in the video are sporting very nice beards. It's like a visual treat that I'm consuming right now, apart from the Gothic stuff.
Kind of like be part of the life. It was the first simulation that I feel like was not centered around the player. It was actually going on while, you know, you were not the center of attention for everything. You were just a nobody. I really liked the progression system and how you learn abilities, and what also the progression had an impact on, you know, your fighting styles, like that the main character had.
Really, I think everybody struggled fighting against the first scavenger or run away from the diggers. And for me, this point, from then learning that all the decisions make sense and all affect, and in the end of the game you are stronger and you get a name in the colony, for me that's the most memorable thing of the game.
For me, the main thing that for me defines Gothic, it's the way you interact with other characters. I mean, it's not about, you know, killing 20 wolves and so you get a rise in your level of expertise in sword fighting. It's about find someone, convince him to teach you how to improve your skills, and then maybe if you are good enough, he will teach you something. No? These human relations.
Our aim was also to create this remake in a mindful way and with respecting greatly the original, but we also wanted to set up, like with the graphics, to be like a modern game with a realistic look, right? And that kind of fights with the original, because the original, they only had so much polygons per figures, for example. And with these restrictions, you design creatures and NPCs and whatever, you design it in a very specific way to get the fantasy.
Is that what I think it is? Let's think. A location in ruins with a very, very deep chasm. Is that the Sleeper Temple? I think so. I think so. Take a look, compare it to the original. Mountain Fortress Blockout. Oh, sure. I mean, I bet my money that this is the Sleeper Temple, but it could also be the bridge leading to the Mountain Fortress. Could be, because when you take a look at the bottom right, you can see some assets. But come on, they reuse assets, right? They told us that they were doing this to be more efficient. Jesus Christ. Well, we'll see about that. I might be wrong, but from this angle, kind of reminds me of the entrance of the Sleeper Temple. You know, you enter it, and it's this big-ass hall, where this huge chasm actually kind of parts the whole cave. And after, you know, traversing, I think it was a fallen pillar. You can see the orc statues and all that kind of stuff, and then you get into the temple properly.
In your head, right? You had to do this back in the day. If there is people who are like, yeah, but I like this look. If you really like the look of the original game, I mean, I think there is a game for you, which is the original. And thankfully, I mean, you can now play Gothic 1 and 2 as classic editions on modern consoles, which I think was also one of our key strategies always to take care about franchises and IPs to make sure the thing that people love is actually preserved.
In the end, we're fighting to recreate the love memories, and in Spanish we say, there's a say that says, cualquier tiempo pasado fue mejor. It seems any past time was way better. So in the end, we're trying to challenge with this, but it's not nice.
Früher war alles besser. Yeah, back in the day was way better than nowadays in the modern times. I want to go back, look at them fire lizards quenching their thirst. What happens when a fire lizard drinks? Is it all evaporating in their throats? Because their throats look very hot. I want to go back to this one here. Look at that, amazing. Yeah, we had a discussion about, you know, the Christian iconography, and I said, yeah, probably if you have more occult imagery would be more fitting, even for the fire mages. But what I do really like is like the light being playing such a big role in the composition of the shot. And you take a look and all the different colors is like, you know, shining a light through a prism, and like the cover for what is it? Oh, I forgot. Such a big name, big band. Oh, I forgot it. I'm sorry. But yeah, I really do enjoy it. Again, you know, the iconography. In my opinion, I really liked it when they had, you know, a pentagram in their chapel, the fire mages that is, and these weird runes etched on the walls of the church, of the chapel. But it looks, just from the looks of it, it's really cool. It's really cool. Yeah. Pink Floyd. Yeah. The cover. Okay, now I remember. Let's move on.
It seems any past time was way better. So in the end, we're trying to challenge with this, but it's a nice challenge. So when I read some fans' comments about, and they say, for example, a new cam image, we released not much time ago, and they say, wow, this is exactly how the new cam was in my imagine when I was.
That's a new shot, baby. That's the tavern on the lake. Look at that. So I was asking Kai Rosenkrantz and Reinhard Polic at Gamescom when we were talking about, you know, they want to expand a little bit in some areas. I was asking them about right that and there. It's wow, you can actually see a sunken hut there. Wow, crazy. I was asking them about this area at the lake. Will there be some changes? And they said no comment. So I think it will be just, as you can see, a little forested areas. You will find some things there. It's hard to make out because it's kind of obscured by the fog. If I'm going to speculate here, I might see a cave in the distance where possibly a certain lurker is having a feast. That looks great, actually, and you can see the path is leading up the mountains, and yeah, looking good. I kind of miss the architecture of the tavern, which was pretty much in style with the other houses in the new camp. You had this adobe style that I was talking about a long time ago, and it had this I don't know, this weird upper deck. I very much liked it, and obviously they changed it here. It's okay, I guess. But I think the original look was very iconic. You know, having this kind of a roof area, this kind of VIP area, which wasn't really a VIP area, but it was nice. You were standing on top. You know, you can take a look at the lake in a better way. Curious why they changed it, but it doesn't bother me that much.
I was playing, no? And then some other fans show him the real image of the new camp of the original game, no? And they say, "What the hell? What? What's this?" In my head, it was like the remake one.
So first of all, I think that the fan base of the original is a multi-layered demographic and structure. I think there's not one voice that you can listen to and say, like, if you do it like that.
Okay. This is obviously the beach part of the colony. It's in the east, where you can find the fire lizards, obviously. And we had a screenshot, kind of this perspective, a few months back, I think. Oh no, it was actually around Gamescom when somebody was streaming that. I think it was Co-Carnage. At the end of the stream, there was this kind of imagery. And what I really like about it is, this is, you know, the main part of Khorinis, so to speak, you know. A piece of land that we actually haven't been to. So there was an interview where they said that they mapped out the island of Khorinis for fun, which makes you think, you know, about a potential future. The question is, how do they want to connect the Valley of Mines with the mainland of Khorinis? I mean, I think there is no official map. There are a lot of fan-made maps that show how the subzones are aligned, and some of them are pretty much, well, they seem to be very logical in their approach. That obviously there is the Valley of Mines in the south, and there is Khorinis, and then there is the Yarkandar part up in the north. You know how the maps align in the end realistically. We don't really know that. But I'm so hyped to go to this area. You can see a waterfall. It's like it has something. It's like a highland. You can see there is foliage up there. It's like I don't know, some mixed forest up there. And if we take a look in the far distance, there seem to be islands off the coast. I doubt that this will be Erdorath, even though they said Erdorath is not that. There is not a big distance between Khorinis and Erdorath, but I doubt that this will be Erdorath. That will be too close, in my opinion. But we'll see about that. It's a great shot. It's really a great shot. And I want to say I kind of see that the barrier is interacting with the water, which is very cool to see. They were talking about months ago. They were talking about more interactions between environment and the barrier, and I'm all up for it. It looks very, very cool.
Everybody will like it, and that's the core problem. There's so many different.
Whoa, this is the Hollow, the new camp's mine. Damn, look at that. Well, they really captured the color palette here. Damn, son. And look at all those different edits in the mountainside. That's great.
Opinions. There's even like when we did the Gothic playable teasers, there were even like old fans who were like, great, finally doing something different with it. I disagree with this. I feel like with the playable teaser, the aim was to really push the boundaries and go over it to get strong reactions, and we got that. So that worked out.
So back in the day, we were asking, okay, what fans want? What do they want? They want the same story with new graphics, or maybe a retold. Maybe they want a new story within the world, or maybe they want something in the line of new modern games where the character is always talking and doing jokes to the player. I don't know. So we thought, okay, let's go extreme. Let's force a very strong reaction, and with that we can understand what they really want. No, and in the end, we got the reaction. We got a lot of ideas from the fans. The fans showed us the way, and they helped us to create the pillars of the Gothic remake. No, I remember 4 years ago creating a document with the pillars of the game view, and
wow. Wow. That looks pretty much like Water Mage territory, right? You see reflections from the water, the blue nature of the light, a tree. A tree needs water to grow. Damn, that's looking good. But I want to get back to what they're actually talking about right now. So different people have different opinions. What's new, right? But again, if we're talking about a franchise that is so old, obviously some people have very strong opinions. Since we also had so many things being changed in the course of the history of Gothic, right? We had Gothic 1, which should have set the rules of the world and what it's all about, and then you had a continuation of that. But even the changes between Gothic 1 and Gothic 2, they're quite some big changes, how the world works in terms of the gods and what role they play. And then there's Gothic 3 completely sometimes spitting on the established lore and making nonsensical decisions. I mean, yeah, we could talk hours about Gothic 3, but it doesn't matter. Let's get back to the people, to the fans, and what they want. I get it. There's different camps, and I want to say that there is like 3 camps, just like in Gothic. You've got the hardcore purists who just basically want some quality of life changes with better graphics. But essentially everything is the same, right? I get that. Then you've got people that would have enjoyed a continuation of the playable teaser. They're like, okay, take the basic stuff that makes Gothic interesting and then go wild with it, modernize it, go ham, and just make somewhat of a completely new approach. And then there's the third camp, the camp of balance. I think that's kind of where I'm positioned. Even though I had strong feelings about some changes they did, and I always kind of want to explain this with, hey, if you got a design, if we're talking about a character, for example, if there is an established design, of a character, his face is very remarkable. Why is there a need to change it? My favorite example of that would be Gomez. We saw a screenshot of the man a long time ago, and I was like, yeah, I don't really see that being Gomez. And you've got to be honest, if they would show you the screenshot of Gomez without his armor, you probably wouldn't have guessed. Let's be real here. Let's be real. Gomez had a very distinct face in Gothic 1, so that there is some changes necessary, I get it, sure. For example, the model of Gomez had kind of droopy eyes, that kind of looked a little bit off, but in general, you know, the mustache and his kind of triangular face and all this, his very stern look, that should be carried over. And I didn't have the impression that they carried it over good enough in the remake's version of Gomez. So even though I was hard on these things, I think what Gothic needs is to be a fulfilled game. You can take a look at all the different approaches they had back in the day, the projects before Gothic was Gothic. You had the Phoenix era, you had the Orpheus era before that, and all these ideas that were spun by the likes of Mike Hoge, what they wanted to integrate into the game, but finally, or in the end, were basically cutting floor material. So many things didn't make it into the game, and I'm just like, you know, get inspired by these things and finalize the game. Make it what it should have been. We all know why Gothic is the way it is. I mean, it worked out in the end, even though, in my opinion, it's pretty short. And there's a lot of backtracking through places and scenes that become very barren after a while, that you can easily fill up, even in the original, with newer stuff that, you know, appear after the first chapter. Again, if you've done everything that is to do in the first chapter, there is only for the most part, there is only the main storyline to do, right? And in my opinion, you should make every chapter like chapter 1, in a sense of, hey, here's something new, here's something more exciting. And also when it comes, not just the quests, but also expanding on certain things. Maybe there is an unfinished storyline. I'm looking at Chromanin, for example. And looking at the possibility, for example, to get the heavy guard armor or whatever. You know, there's a lot of stuff in there. What happens to the Brotherhood after Kalam leaves? You know, you don't really feel a breakup in the community. You can emphasize that more in the remake. I don't want to list up too many things, but to cut a long story short, there is a lot of things that can be improved to give you a better version of the original. It's not the original, it's the remake, I understand that, but I think when you talk about changes in a potential remake, to most people, they get defensive. They're like, no, don't change it. And I get their point, because those people might not even know what was cut from the original game. And if you really get down into these things and you read your way through the documents and all that, it makes more and more sense. And in the end, you're sitting there, you're like, oh, that would have been actually a good thing to put into the game. You know, the little lore about the world of the demons, there being 7 archdemons, like the Sleeper, you know, just building mythology. Or the Nemesis event, where after, I think it was chapter 4 or 5, where the situation in the colony goes haywire, where orcs suddenly appear from underground or from their caves in the mountains, whatever, to attack the camps, where the influence of the Sleeper is getting so strong that it has an effect on, I think it was also the barrier, the color of the barrier, but I might be wrong here, but also on the people and the decisions they made. Maybe you can see some more people driven into madness before the fall of the Sleeper in the Brotherhood, for example. There's just so much. And I'm just really convinced that many of these things, for example, the Orc City, man, I love it. I really love it. I also love the abandoned mine. These are the things that were originally meant to be in the game for some reasons, and they made sense. And those were, in my opinion, that these things would be a great addition to a remake. And we just saw that it was probably the abandoned mine, you know, in its full glory, which is a good piece of information at the very start of the video. But yeah, it's like, I don't want it to be a completely different game, completely modernized. No, capture the spirit of back in the day and expand on the original vision they had. Obviously, it also has to be said, not every single idea from the original conception of the game, the original concept of the game, I'm sorry, is worth to be redone, right? I think you will find some things that might be silly, but you find also a lot of things that are cut too short. Well, these are the three my imagination what the three camps of the fan base look like. And I think I've witnessed kind of a lot of people of all the camps, but there's one camp that's dominating. I'm not sure. I don't think that the camp, you know, who likes to have a completely new Gothic experience, I think it's a small portion of the people. You know, the AAA approach, all these quality of life improvements, mini-map here and there, you know, it's like you're playing, again, Witcher 3 is a good game, but all these things that you can find in The Witcher, you know. I think that type of crowd is not really that big. I think the most people are like either purists or give us more stuff that was meant to be in the game, more storylines being finished, more areas being filled with meaningful stuff and all that. And now I'm stopping to talk.
And saying, okay, those are we cannot move. Those are the pillars. So everything what we are reconstructing the next years, those are the founding pillars, and it should be that. So for me, the PT was good because it helped us to define those basic pillars, and we are here today.
When we started to create the real Gothic 1 remake and got the green light to do it, we set out to, or we defined that first and foremost, we have to please the old Gothic fans. Because if they don't like our game, then this game has no right to exist.
I would say two things. The first thing to the fans is that I hope that they fully understand the way we embrace the original, the way we respect and we are trying to honor the original, because we understand how important is this game, well, the franchise, but Gothic 1 in special for them. No? Sometimes I read fans telling, okay, I was playing this with my father, and I will play the remake with my son. So I hope that they understand that we are doing this with passion and with all of our heart.
It's the people out there that make us do what we love doing. They enable us to do that, and they are kind of the other half of that world that kind of only works if the both halves come together. We being passionate game developers that pour our hearts and souls into making the game, and the audience that enjoys playing those games and kind of keeping it alive over so many years.
And for the future, I would like to play Gothic Remake in 20 years with Aran, with my son. He's 2 years old now, but maybe in 15 years or 16 years, we can play together, and I say, okay, Papa, you did this, and I say, yeah. But yeah, maybe in 10 years, we can play together to this.
That's it. Wow, music. Nameless Hero by Nameless Hero. Alles wird gut. Ich kann diese Scheiße nicht mehr hören. Yeah, great series actually. So this was the first part, obviously getting into it, you know, talking about the grand scheme of things, their approach. I think they really had, you know, put some care into it, many meetings, maybe how to approach this, and I really do think that this is the right approach. So far, I mean, I have played the teaser, but not the final game, obviously. I think it's looking good. And I think how Alkimia is choosing to engage with the fans is something to behold. So, for the people watching, still watching, first of all, thanks, but there was on the official Gothic Remake Discord server, I cannot really wrap my head around this fact, but there was a poll and it was given out to the German audience. And it was basically the question, who do you like, or which voice actor for Diego do you like better? And they gave you, I think it was 3 options. And I just had, to pause a little to really take this in. Can you give me one example of a studio that includes the fan base in such a fundamental way? We live in dire times when it comes to video games. I mean, right now there's a little shift happening. We'll see how far it goes, but the past 10 years, even longer, there were studios out there who just thought that they knew better than their clients, than their customers, than their fan base, and they gave you slop after slop after slop. The most recent fall was probably Dragon Age Veilguard, which upset huge parts of the fan base, and now it turned out to be the sloppiest of slop, not selling enough. Who would have thought? But yeah, I guess we're still a tiny vocal minority who don't like this stuff, which is obviously a lie. Most of the people do not enjoy this. They don't like this condescending manner of you, and to an extent, or of the player character being treated, and to an extent you, the player behind the screen, being treated when it's all lecturing you about certain things, or making you feel bad because you behaved a certain way, or because you have certain, visions and values in your life. And also, obviously, the big studios, they don't care, for the most part, about your opinion. And a small studio getting out there and asking you, hey, what voice do you like better? That warmed my heart. It's like, this should be, I don't want to say this should be what a game development should look like all the time, but the engagement from Alkimia is just all over the place. You've got these polls that decide over a very big part of the game later on. You've got developers chatting with people on Discord. Looking at you, Kai, you're the prime example for that, which is always a treat. And the overall management of the community, and a big part of that plays obviously Timur. Big thanks, big guy. You're doing the Lord's work. This is just so incredible. I really can't wait for the next episode. I really can't wait to play the game, but again, take your time, brothers, take your time. In German, we say, gut Ding will Weile haben, so good things take some time to be made. And we have been waiting for so freaking long. Gothic 3 was the last part. When did it came out? 2006, I think, right? Think about that. So, we've been waiting for a long time. I think we can wait another half a year, another year. I don't even care if it's coming out in 1.5 years from now on. I don't care. Please take your time and really work on that. So, it's been a long video. I think we're cutting it right now. I want to thank you everybody for listening. It was a great experience to listen to this, and I hope you liked the video. Please do the usual stuff, feel free to. And yeah, I will see you in the next video. I'm still working on stuff, And yeah, I will see you in the colony. Well, maybe before that. Goodbye.